My name is Brad Strew. I work here at the Optimal You Fitness facility and appreciate everybody coming in here today. We're going to try to cover a very important topic. I think a lot of people can relate, exercise and weight management. And our biggest goal here today is, if nothing else, help give you a little better understanding of how the two interplay together. When you are looking at an exercise routine, trying to evaluate what you're doing, whether you're just starting or have been doing the same one for years or just looking for something different, how you can best set that up, some different ideas to take advantage when it comes to weight management. That's really what we're looking at. If nothing else, get you thinking about something a little different and a little bit better understanding of what we're really trying to go through. One of the basic things we're going to start out with is just the benefits of exercise and weight management. I mean, it's a pretty inclusive list. We're not going to go through every one, but there's a lot of pretty vital things here. Reduced risk of premature death, reduced risk of heart disease, reduced risk of certain cancers, better cholesterol levels, improved sleep, breathing, mobility. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is pretty much, I just limited it to that because that's what I could fit on one slide. I probably could have made 3 or 4 slides of the benefits that have been recently tied to exercise and obtaining, a better weight or a weight closer to your ideal BMI. We're not going to discuss that in particular today, but just want to emphasize again, the benefits of exercise and weight management overlap. There's very few that are exclusive to one or the other. They work together in a lot of ways, so you want to keep that in mind through this presentation. And kind of moving along, main topic today, pretty obvious, is using exercise to manage your weight. We will have a nutrition-focused seminar coming up in March, but today we're going to focus on how exercise can contribute. The topics we're going to try to go through, you see exercise intensity, why your intensity matters when you're working out, why you should never use the fat burn program on any piece of cardio equipment unless it's, quote, a recovery day. But overall, it is not the best way to burn fat. We're going to talk about interval training, why it's important, why it's getting more headlines, and in a lot of ways how it can be the best way to go, especially if you're on limited time. Strength training, again, why it's important, how it plays in, actually how can that help not just with weight management, but with the intervals and the exercise intensity and some other benefits that together wrap the whole picture up. Again, the programming, we're going to spend very little time on that because that starts being very individualized. But again, we're going to try to give a couple of ideas, just things to think about when you are putting together your own program. So with that, we're going to kind of move forward. We're going to start out talking about exercise intensity. And with that, I mean, that's the biggest thing that everybody is concerned about is right there. You have your $1 million question here. How do we burn more fat? You exercise, a lot of people, their biggest concern is burning fat. I don't care about anything else. I want to lose weight or I want to lose fat, especially to have better body definition, be healthier, a lot of different reasons. With that being a big motivator, I mean, what we need to understand is intensity is going to determine how much fat we burn. At the lower intensity levels, you're going to use predominantly fat as an energy source. There's no disputing that. Science shows that. And then as you increase that intensity level, especially above roughly 65%, you start burning more and more carbohydrates as your fuel source. And that's, again, been scientifically proven over and over and over again. However, when you start thinking, should I be doing the lower intensity workouts then to lose weight, to lose that fat, to get rid of the unwanted things? The answer is no. And what they're actually finding is the higher intensity will do much better at the fat loss, will do much better at improving your overall health as well. So again, a little bit confusing, but we're going to look at an example here. I mean, because we're thinking, but I want to burn fat. You just told me lower intensity is going to burn more fat. Now you're telling me not to do that. Well, here's a good example. I did take this out of a book. They had some other numbers that were in there, but for the, we're trying to get across a simplistic idea, if anything, today, and some of them are complex formulas, so it's not worth diving into in a shorter presentation like today. But this is, an example taken for a typical 30-minute workout. It was with a 20-year-old female. From that standpoint, maximum heart rate as you can, just to give you a little bit of information, just 220 minus your age. For women, it's typically 226 minus your age, just as a rough ballpark. But as what you start looking at, the exercise intensity. This is just to provide an example. At 50% of their max heart rate effort, you're looking, roughly 50-50 split. 30 minutes of continuous exercise, burning approximately 220 calories for this individual. And, roughly half of those are from fat again. So then you look at, okay, let's up that intensity. And now we're burning over 100 more calories and still burning the same amount of fat. So with that, you're getting the extra benefit of burning more calories, and you still have hit pretty much the same level of burning fat. And you're going to see that continue as the intensities increase. Even though the percentages are going to decrease on the amount of fat, you're actually going to maintain that calorie count or increase it significantly. Now, if you look at kind of where this pulls in, is if you're looking at your typical piece of cardio equipment, your treadmills, your ellipticals, their fat burn program. By default, it's going to put you anywhere between roughly 60 and 65% of your effort based on your age. Again, with that 220 minus your age formula. So at a max, you're going to be at 65% in most of those programs. Again, if you do a similar one of the cardio burn, they'll usually start you around 75% and move up from there. In this comparison, all you're going to see, those numbers are going to get farther and farther apart. In other words, even at 65%, the calorie count's going to go up maybe 50, 60 calories on the fat burn type of intensity. You get up to 85, 90% on the other one, and you're going to add 100 to 200 calories onto that number. You're going to actually end up with higher calories from fat and significantly higher calories overall. So again, understanding that fat burn program, it's on there because it sells equipment. It's not on there because it's the best way to burn fat. I mean, point blank, when a consumer is looking at a treadmill, especially for in-home, one of the biggest selling features that gets asked time and time again is, does it have heart rate, and does it have a heart rate-based fat burn program? It is a big selling point, and that is the main reason it's on treadmills, or any piece of equipment for that reason. Again, kind of continuing on that thought, with the higher intensity, you're going to create a higher calorie deficit. So in other words, your body has to make up for more lost energy. And when you have to make up for lost energy, you pull from energy stores, which is going to be from fat stores. I mean, that is the way it works chemically, regardless of what you're doing. Any excess calories, whether it be protein, carbohydrates, fats, it's stored as fat, period. And when you burn excess calories, in order to replenish those stores, your body pulls from those. So, I mean, where we're at now, just to kind of stop and think about it a little bit, is higher intensity exercise will actually impact fat loss and weight loss the most by burning the most amount of calories, including the higher amount in terms of strictly fat calories, which we're going to find out in a minute doesn't really matter. And, the other bonus when you do the higher intensity workouts, another thing that's known, once you get your heart rate to that 70% of your max or higher, that's when you're going to make the most significant influence on health or your fitness levels, being able to walk farther, faster, being able to go up that flight of stairs, not being winded. You're going to start making significant gains there. Can you make those gains at the lower intensity? Yes, and it will take significantly longer, both in duration and time, to adapt to that demand. So that's kind of where we want to stay right now, is we know higher intensity is better, and it's better for burning fat, better for us. Now, this is a study, it's actually quite old, neighborhood a little over 10 years. It's a study that really prompted interval training. And we're looking at this primarily because of high intensity. We already know that burns more fat. This was done, and it was actually based off of Japanese speed skaters. This was a routine they were actually using to prepare themselves for their competitions. And basically, you compared moderate intensity protocol, like it says, 5 days a week, roughly 70% of the individual's max heart rate, and they did that 60 minutes, 5 days a week for 6 weeks on both of these cases. The high intensity protocol, very similar. That number is actually wrong. It should be 170% because they established this off of their max VO2. We're not going to cover that today, but essentially your VO2 is the highest level that you can sustain for of output that you can sustain for an extended period of time. If you go over that 100% threshold, essentially think of an all-out sprint. You cannot maintain it for very long. That would be a good example, and that's kind of what they did with this study. If you were to go all-out sprinting, your breathing cannot keep up with the demand you're placing on your body. Is the easiest way to think of it. And they did a protocol, 4 minutes long after a warm-up, 20 seconds on, basically at 90+% effort in terms of how fast they could actually pedal, on a bike, and then, like I said, at extremely high demand, 10 seconds of rest. They repeated this 6 to 8 times. They terminated the sets based on when the person couldn't complete 90 RPMs anymore at the resistance they were at to achieve that level of intensity. As you're going to see, the results here are pretty startling, even for something that was done 10 years ago. The moderate intensity group, they improved aerobically, as expected. 6 weeks on a nice, solid aerobic program, an hour a day, 5 days a week. You expect that change. However, those who were doing 4 minutes a day had more dramatic improvements in their aerobic ability. And on top of that, they improved their ability to maintain that high output, or think of that sprint for a longer duration. You don't get that bonus from your standard aerobic activity at a steady state effort. So, this started it a lot is you started showing 4 minutes of high intensity. You're getting the results of somebody who's doing an hour's worth of work aerobically. We're going to kind of tie this in. Stay with me a moment, and we're going to tie in this intensity to a little bit of other things and why this makes a difference and really how you can take advantage of it. We're going to look at one more. Again, this was at McMaster's University. They looked at the results of intervals and how it affected your endurance capacity. Does it really make a difference? You see much different setup here. They have 30 seconds with a 4-minute recovery. So, these sprints for 30 seconds for the most part are extremely high intensity. They weren't something that after 30 seconds people weren't going to be able to maintain that pace. 4 minutes of recovery. I repeated it roughly 4 to 7 times. Again, this was determined based on the individual's fitness level, as is typically done with these. So you're looking at this, again, not really a lot of time when you look at it of actual work. They're terminated in terms of the recovery, too, on this. You're thinking 4 minutes, you're doing kind of back to your steady state effort. You're not really pushing yourself that hard. It would be a pace that they could have kept maintaining for a long duration afterwards. Again, it's what they found is this is a test. This one in particular actually was only done for about 2 weeks, but it actually improved their endurance capacity. Now, one thing to note that's not on here, just because of space, it didn't improve their max VO2. It did not improve their anaerobic ability, which it wouldn't be expected because of the extremely short duration. But it improved their ability to do a cycle test, almost doubled their time. So as what you saw happen is it actually improved the enzymes that are stored in the muscle, allowing the body to process oxygen and use it in order to facilitate energy. And it also improved the glycogen stores in the muscle, or think of the storage of energy within the muscles. Simply 30 seconds on, 4 minutes off, 4 to 7 times, and it actually improved people's endurance ability. That's significant. We're going to, again, come back and tie this in a second. Again, this last one kind of ties into fat loss. And with this one, we're looking at intervals, comparing them to traditional endurance training, the longer duration at a little bit lower effort. And how does this affect fat loss? What happens? Why? And what they found looking at this is, when they started adjusting for calories, the people that did do the longer duration test, up to 45 minutes, up to a pretty high effort in all reality, burned almost double the calories in their workouts and during the workouts. However, is what they found is the interval group, and I'm going to explain the fat loss, lost significantly more fat, doing considerably less work overall. A lot less time. They were burning roughly half the calories during the workout. So as what that's telling you is something's happening after the workout that is allowing them to do a lot more good in terms of losing fat or burning calories, continuing after they're done with exercise. And one thing I want to explain with the 9 times the fat. That's how it's reported. I think it's very important to mention that's based on a per calorie basis. So in other words, it's not as if, the endurance folks lost 1 pound and all these people lost 9 pounds. That was essentially is the amount of fat they burned based on the amount of per calorie they expended during a workout.